Hi guys, welcome back to another sugar flower tutorial. Now in this tutorial I'm going to take you through how to make these really incredible gum paste dahlias. They're quite a delicate flower and do break very easily, and they do take a little bit of patience to make, but once you master this you will end up with these really incredible flowers to add to your collection. Let's get started. So to make a sugar flower dahlia or a gum paste dahlia, we're going to start with a piece of gum paste attached to an 18 gauge wire, and we've just secured a ball of gum paste here onto the wire. The reason that we're using quite a thick florist wire is because there will be lots and lots of petals, so we need something that's going to be sturdy and hold the weight of all of these petals. These dahlias that I'm making are going to be a really beautiful burgundy red, so I'm starting off with just some red sugar paste, and I will be colouring this in with petal dust to make it a darker hue. The sugar paste or gum paste that I am using is the Smart Flex flower paste, which I absolutely love. It's easy to work with, very pliable, dries fairly quickly, but gives you enough time to work on it and add all those details, and is also a nice affordable project, especially when you're making lots and lots of these sugar flowers. So the cutter set that I'll be using is the Sugar Art Studio Geo collection, and this is your dahlia cutter set. You have everything here that you need, but of course you can use any cutter set that you prefer. So let's get started. So I'm just going to roll out some gum paste with my non-stick rolling pin. If it seems to be sticking to the board, then you can just add a little bit of cornstarch to your board. We're going to just add some here. It will also make it a lot easier when it comes to cutting this shape out. So I'm rolling this fairly thin, and then I'm going to take my 9 petal cutter and just start cutting out a few of these. Just pop those out with a paintbrush. And I'm not worried about these little bits that you can kind of see here on the side, because we're going for a really organic look, so don't worry about that too much. So we're going to do about 3 of these. And then we'll just put the excess away in an airtight container, just to make sure that doesn't dry out too much. So taking our soft mat, I want to go in with some details. So what I'm going to do is, using my veiler tool that we have here, I'm going to just start putting in some details. So I'm just dragging this along. Just adding some veins and some interest into these petals. Once you've done that, you want to go in with a small ball tool and just soften those edges. And then if we just flip that over, we're going to take our gum paste, and then with some edible glue, I'm just going to paint the top of the ball so that it's nice and sticky and our gum paste has something to adhere to. And then what you can do to make it easier is place your flower onto one of these soft mats that already has a little hole in, and that will just help you when you're securing it. We're going to pierce this through the hole, and you can just hold it from the back, and then just start to push the petals over. And what I'm doing is, as I'm pushing them over onto the ball, I'm actually squeezing the tops so that we get this nice little effect here. So you see, I'm just pushing that over here and then just squeezing. And it doesn't have to be exact. Actually, the whole idea is that the more kind of organic that you make it and free flowing, the more realistic it will look and beautiful. Just like that. And then we'll just pop that one there. So that's the center at the moment, and you just want to make sure that you can't see any of the white underneath of the ball of gum paste. And then we're going to do the same again with the next 2 layers.
I'm on the train headed back to Indiana. The rain is forming into rivers outside, writing down all the things that I miss, and in the letters you take form. No, I won't go back tonight with the habits of the restless me. I'm leaving all that stuff behind. We can start all over in our hometown, running free. It could be everything that we were chasing. I'm impatient just to see how you make everything fall into place. How you make everything fall into place.
So this time I'm just going to add the glue to the actual petals. And then the same again. We just start to pull these upwards and let them stick organically to the side of the dahlia. And this time I'm not necessarily squeezing these, I'm just letting them sit quite naturally as I go. Can squeeze a few, but I want to make sure that we do get a nice kind of bulk to the center of our dahlia. So the third layer, just do the same again. So we have our lovely little spiky center. And now we're going to start looking at these petals that come outwards from the dahlia to give you that really beautiful effect. And what you can do is we'll leave this in some polystyrene, while we do the next step. So we're going to take the 3-petal cutter in the set, and this should be quite a small cutter compared to the other one. So it'll be the next smallest in the set basically. And we are going to cut out about 5 of these little petal shapes.
I'm the first one to get off at the station. There's something in the air that I can't.
And just a tip to stop these from drying out is I have this really cool plastic film here, and you can just place that over, and this kind of seals these so we can work on them one by one and they won't dry out. Okay. So this will be very much what we did before. We want to add some detail into the petals. So I want to take my veiner tool and just draw in some lines and add some indentation. And I like to do these in different depths. So sometimes I'll press really lightly and then I'll go in with the thinner end of my veiner tool and press a little harder so that we get more lines. And then what we're going to do is you want to flip this over, and we want these to curl inwards. The best way to do this is on a softer mat. So I'm going to take this nice soft foamy mat. And what I'm going to do is take a small ball tool, and from the top of the petal I'm going to drag inwards like that so that you get this cupped shape. And I'm going to do the same for all 3 petals, just like that. And then what we can do is just pinch the tips together. And then you want to squeeze the tip there. Then take in our nice center. You want to add some glue to one side. And we need quite a bit of glue to get this to really stick. This is edible glue. And then we're going to go in and push the end of the dahlia up onto here so that it sticks. So just squeeze those ends together and it will stick there. So it looks a bit scary at the moment because these are flying outwards, but if we work quickly we'll leave this to dry hanging upside down, which I'll show you. So as we're working on in each stage, what you can do, flip this upside down, take some pliers and just make a little hook in the very top of your dahlia. And then I'm going to hook this onto a shelf rack, and then I can move on to the next stage and do exactly the same and then add them to the dahlia, but it means that it will dry upside down and then these will be in the direction that I want them to be.
But still, I'm gonna hold you tight this time around. Not feeling like I need to escape. The world outside only made me numb. 'Cause I just wanna be here in our hometown, running free. It could be everything that we were chasing. I'm impatient just to see how you make everything fall into place.
And as you can see, I'm just kind of squeezing the backs of these down to increase that little cupped feature that we have, and just making sure that it's sticking to the back. So this one here, I'm going to have to add a little bit more glue because it doesn't want to stick. I'm just going to squeeze that there. But see, the idea is that it's not supposed to be completely perfect and tidy. You want it to have a really natural feel. And you can see as we'll start to build this up, it will look really realistic and very cool. And then when we start to add the colour, it will really make all that detail pop. So now we're going to want to go in, and you should do up to 15 more of these because we really want to build up those layers. And the idea is that you're just going to keep going round and round and round until you've really built up the bulk of the flower head. So dahlias do have lots and lots of layers, and it does take some time, but it really does make for a very beautiful and realistic looking sugar flower. So we're going to do about 15 more of these, and we're just going to keep taking them around the flower head. So now that we have our petals, what we're going to do is with our veiner tool, we're going to add some lines so that we have texture. So I'm just dragging my tool from the bottom through to the top. To add some texture. And we want to texture all of these petals. And then what we can do is, in the opposite direction, we're just going to pull our veiner tool down and just pinch the top. Do the same here and pinch the top, and the same here and just pinch that top. Do the same for all the others. But there we go, so we have 4 of our petals all ready to go on to our dahlia. So adding glue to the back of the dahlia, just going to add a generous amount to the bottom, and holding this upside down, we're going to start to place these just about overlapping around the back of the dahlia. Just like that. Now I'll quickly flip this round the other way, and you'll see this is what it will look like, but we need this to dry upside down so that we keep all of these in shape. And then we're going to carry on with all our remaining petals, and we're going to keep building this up, making about 15 to 20 as we just keep going around the dahlia and building up the bulk of the center. So just as you're going around the base of your second and third layers, you want to make sure that you're positioning them a little bit outwards. So don't position them right next to your wire at the bottom here. You want to position them outwards so that they fan and that you can see them from here. So I'll place this final petal quite a way away from the center. It will just be here, because when I flip this round the other way, I want to be able to see these kind of opening out here, just like that. And you can kind of turn it round quickly and have a look, just to see how they'll sit. Or sometimes I do put them above my head and have a look underneath just to see how it's sitting. but you do want to make sure they're kind of pushed outwards and they are fanning outwards, so that when it's all dry and all those petals are in place, then when we do flip this dahlia over, we'll have the desired effect. So what I will do usually is about 45 minutes into the dahlias being dried upside down, is that I will flip them up the other way and position them on top of the drying rack, and while the petals are still pliable, I will put a little bit of tissue paper underneath all of those petals and let them dry upwards, and that just allows me to see the position in which they will finally set and just move anything so it's not too curled over the dahlia. So I've cut out about 20 of these. They're the next size up in the set, and as you'll notice, these petals are separate, so we've only got the one petal cutter rather than the 3, and this will be for the remaining layer. I'm not going to use all the cutters in the set because, as you can see, they go up into a really large size, and these are just going to be too big for the project that I'm working on. But of course, if you do want a bigger dahlia, then feel free to go further up in the set. But I think this will be just the perfect size for what I'm doing here. So I've cut them out, and what I'm going to do this time is I actually have this peony veining set. This will just make it a lot easier because they are all individual. It will take me a long time to vein these, and I don't want to be veining these with a veining tool. It will just take absolutely ages. So this is the closest thing that I have in my cabinet that will kind of give me those lines that I want for my dahlia. So using a little bit of cornstarch just in case it does stick, I'm going to just place my petal in the veining set and then just press this down to get my impression, and just peel that away gently, and then we have one leaf. This will take a while, so you just have to be patient. Okay, and then we want a nice curl here, so we're just going to take this down on the inward part of the dahlia, just on the very edge. We're going to take our tiny ball tool and just cup this at the edge, and then you want to curl the bottom with your fingers and just slightly curl the top, only very slightly, very natural, but this will be the bottom. And we're going to do this with all of those petals. So I've done about 20. You might need less, you might need more. So taking our lovely dahlia that we have set up overnight, we can now start to add these petals. And again, you're going to want to place these upside down. We will add a little bit of glue, but just so you can see here, we'll start placing these into the gaps here. So just keep working your way around, placing them into each gap along the back. With some edible glue, I'm going to go in and just add it to the very edge here of the dahlia. So we're not going right to the back, we're going more to the front so that it has that kind of flat look when we do place it. And then that will just sit nicely here. And we'll just press that in here. We can kind of curl this a little bit with our fingers. And then I'll show you what it will look like. So it will just sit like this, but obviously we're going to have to hang this to dry upside down. So the best thing to do is make all of your petals, add them around the back, just as we have here, and then hang this upside down to dry, and then I will show you the finished article when they've all been added. So we're ready to start adding some petal dust to our dahlias. I want to go in with a darker colour to make this a nice kind of burgundy. You have to be so careful, these are so delicate, and I have already broken a few of the petals on previous dahlias that I've made, which is really frustrating. So just be very aware that these are very delicate sugar flowers. The way they're made, being quite pointed, can just make it quite difficult when handling them to avoid breakages. So yeah, let's just keep that in mind. So I've got a little bit of tissue paper here, so you will need some kitchen towel when you do this, especially if you're going in with a darker colour. And today I'm going to be using this plum truffle colour by Rainbow Dust and this red velvet by Rolcom. Now, not many of the Rolcom food dust are actually edible, so I'd use these on flowers that are not going to be eaten, and because of the way these flowers have been wired, they wouldn't be considered edible flowers. They're safe to put against a cake, but not to consume, and my client does know that. Especially when you're colouring in dahlia flowers, it's always best to go for a soft round tip over the square paintbrush tip. This will just kind of let you work into all those little grooves and circles that we have made in the flower. So what I like to do is actually just decant a tiny bit of each onto my little dish here. And I've got two different colours, so this is a little bit more plummy, whereas the other colour, the red velvet, is a lot darker. So we're going to go in with the darker colour first. Just going to pick some of this up on my paintbrush and then use my tissue paper to kind of wipe off any excess. And then we want to concentrate on the centre first. So we're going to just gently dust that colour into the centre of our dahlia. And we're just letting the edge of those petals pick that colour up. And just be very careful when you're working with these colours that have a really high pigmentation, because if you do load a ton of this petal dust onto your paintbrush and then start kind of really dusting your petals, the whole of the room you're working in will be covered in this kind of red food colouring, and it is a nightmare to try and clean. So just don't get too carried away and try and build up the colour really gently and slowly. It can be very tempting to go in quickly, especially if you have a lot of these to do and you want to get them done very quickly, but honestly, just try and take your time. You'll spend more time cleaning afterwards. So that's it, and you can build this up and make this as dark as you want to. I'm quite happy with this colour. Also keep in mind that afterwards we will steam these flowers, either using a kettle or an actual steamer for flowers, and it will make the colour a lot darker as it sets, so just keep that in mind as well. And the reason we want to steam these flowers is to make sure that any excess pigmentation doesn't fall off the flowers and onto our lovely white cake. I'm going to go in with our more plum colour here and then start working that colour onto the outer petals. And we're just going right in from the bottom of those petals and pull in that colour outwards. And just carry on until we've covered the whole of the dahlia. So there you go, that's how you make this beautiful gum paste dahlia. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, thumbs up, and for more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little notification bell.